Welcome to the stream. I'm going to be painting my little monster merman here. I have a lot of it pretty far along, but I'm just going to clean it up a bit. One of the previous streams where I was rendering this guy, my pen was acting up, so I had to use a different brush than I was used to doing for my rendering. So a lot of the stuff that would normally have been like soft rendering and painting didn't come across. It came across as like all very hard textured. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not exactly the approach that I wanted for this one. So I'm going to be hopefully doing a little bit of surgery on this to make it look all right. This is Maddie's critique stream. Yes, of course, this is Maddie's painting. Yeah, so as always, if you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them in the chat. Tag me, just at Dave Raposa, and I'll check them out. Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to calm myself down. I was getting so frustrated. I had been not working. I had been like talking to, sorry to name drop. I've been talking to like Colin Kaepernick on and off for a while, and he had me do like a Zoom meeting with him and another guy, like I don't know, a couple months ago or something like that, or maybe it was longer than that. Maybe it was like 3 months ago. But talking about his new platform for like comic creators, and he had this whole long conversation about it, and like asking my advice on all these things, like what comic creators are looking for in a platform and all this. And then come to find out that they just dropped it, and it's a whole like fucking AI thing to help people do comics. And I basically just messaged him, and I was all, just like, what the hell is this? Like, what are you doing? Yeah, it's just so crazy to me. It's driving me nuts. And I understand people who have like no connection to art, but like, I said this whole thing about how, like creators aren't going to go for this. It's ridiculous. Like, what are you doing? And then he basically told me that it's like, no, why shouldn't the creators use the tool to then be, it was just like bananas to me. It's everything that happens it's like people nowadays, it's like they live out these bad guy movie scenarios in real life and don't understand that they're the bad guy in the situation. It's like if you've ever watched like a mob movie and the wife is like, I'm not gonna, like when they find out where the money's coming from, they're like, I'm not gonna spend the money that came from like hurting people and doing all this shit. It's like, it doesn't matter that it's money that can be used. It's ill-begotten goods, so I don't want to partake in that. And like that's always like the good person in the thing. It's like, how do you not see that that's the same exact thing? Like, yes, the AI exists, they already took all our shit, so we might as well also use it. Like, no, I don't want to use shit that came from this fucking thing. It's so crazy to me. I'm like, how do you not see like it's literally the One Ring. Why shouldn't we use it? Like, what do you not see the parallels from everything ever? Like, how are people so thick to this stuff? I'm like, what are you talking about? So every time I have these conversations, I feel fucking nuts. I'm like, am I the only person seeing this? Like, what's going on? Like, it's so dumb and obvious to me that I'm like, am I crazy? Like, I don't understand. But anyway, yeah, that's been my thing. I just kind of like blew up on a DM, just like, what is this? I was like, I'm glad that I'm not like involved, but I was really happy to help at first, like when I had the conversation with them. And now that I know like this was the whole thing, it feels like my wife put it a really good way, where she was like, it would be like somebody coming to the house and having fresh baked cookies that you made, and they were like, oh wow, these are so good, like, is this an original recipe? Like, and then you being like, yeah, it's actually from my grandmother, you know, she passed this down. And they were like, oh, it's so awesome, like I'd love to make these for my kids. And then you find out that that person's like a commercial baker, and then they start selling your stuff in stores. Like, it feels like that to me, where I'm like, you just spent all that time talking to me about what you could do for comic creators, only to find out that you're starting like some fucking AI thing. Yeah, it just pisses me off. Like, what? I mean, you can't blame some of these people because they have no idea the impact these things have. They don't actually know what it means. But yeah, it drives me crazy. I mean, it's the thing is that like unfortunately this thing that he's launching relies on creators still. And all the comic creators, like writers and people that I've seen, are like totally against it. Which I was trying to say, I was like, if you're thinking that like this is for creators, then they are not gonna like this. Like, this is the wrong move. Hey, son. Well, I'm not saying that Colin's thing will be successful and that like I'm worried about it. It just feels like such a wasted effort. It feels like a bunch of tech bros got their hands on him and then told him that this was a good idea, and literally did the thing I was saying from Lord of the Rings, of saying like, why shouldn't we let them have the power of the evil thing? We should give it back to them. It's like the point is to throw the ring into the fucking volcano. Not to just be like, ah yes, ease and expediency, exactly what I needed to have a real human experience. So bananas. It's like, ugh. Nothing means anything if you get it immediately. Like, imagine never having to critical think about anything ever again. What a wasted life. Are we doing Steve Lichman Volume 3? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were writing it for a really long time, and then we have like periodic stops and starts because of work and that sort of thing. And it's one of those things where we don't want to like put out a book or put out a Kickstarter and have the book not be 100% complete. So what we were doing before is we had the book like almost 100% done, and then we'd launch the Kickstarter, and then we would wrap up the rest, edit it, and then print. But this time we're just like, nah, let's not do any of that. Let's not stress ourselves out. And we're also probably not going to do, after this next book, we're probably not going to do what we were doing, where we just wait and put out one giant volume. We're thinking of doing like, once book 3 is out, we're thinking of doing like episodic stuff, and then put that out online, and then we'll release like big collections of the work later, once we have like a decent chunk. We're figuring it out, but we definitely want to just do comics on the fly without having to rely on releasing like a giant volume. Yes, I mean there's a million things wrong with the AI stuff. It's just more like, I don't know, like when people try and frame it as like, you'll never have to think about anything again. It's like, okay, and then I'll have time to do what? Like, what am I freeing up time to do? Like, I like doing things. I like making stuff. It's like this whole idea that like I need more and more and more convenience as opposed to more and more responsibility. It's just like I don't see that value being good. Like I understand it. I understand why it's attractive. But like I don't think it's good for people to have other people do things for you. It's like that idea, like when somebody is old, right, and they're in an old folks home, the fastest way to kill the people is to do everything for them, because then they lose purpose. So if somebody else does everything for you, then it's just kind of game over for older people. And I think that that's pretty true for everybody. It's like you need real purpose. And it's just crazy to me. All of it just feels like ass backwards. Ahmed says, my question is for you, Dave. During your training as a student, did you deliberately practice with intention to develop your unique artistic style? Well, I never went to school. I just taught myself, but during that whole, I'm still doing that now. Forever a student. But what I do is I just tend to focus on, at first you kind of like do a scatter shot of like having everything rotate. It's like I'm trying to do like anatomy, I'm working on my perspective, I'm working on lighting, I'm working on like how to imply forms and things. I'm doing like all of these little studies, and then as I improved, I would focus more and more on specifics of like, okay, what's the thing I'm most afraid of doing? Do that. And do that over and over again. It's like whatever I shy away from in my art, just because it makes me uncomfortable and I feel like I'm not good at it, do those things. And the more I did that, the better my work got. I needed to find ways to like enjoy that aspect of it, that kind of improvement. But I got there. But yeah, that was a lot of it. Was just keep narrowing my focus as I improved generally about, with my art. Where's Kim? She's doing her nails right now. Yeah, anyway, that was my most recent thing that I was dealing with just like a few minutes before the stream. That's why I was coming in hot. Talking about that shit. So what I'm kind of doing right now is I'm trying to blend a lot of stuff because everything's a little too tightly rendered, because like I was saying, I messed up my brush last time because of my pen pressure thing was off for whatever reason. So now I'm just trying to lose a lot, give it a little bit more of the like realistic-ish look, and then I'll paint on top of this in Krita once I'm done with this texture pass, and hopefully kind of make it look rendered nice. I'm also trying to break up the sameness look of all of the textures that are in this. The new Diablo piece you posted for the next season looks great. Hey, thank you. Yeah, I was really happy with that. It took a little while to do that one just because there was so many characters. I think there's like 27 characters. The craziest thing about that painting is that every single individual character in that is actually rendered out. So if you look at like the whole army of monsters that are coming up in that piece, like every single one of those monsters, like they're all layered on top of each other. So they actually all have full bodies underneath them in the master file, the like giant Photoshop file. So that's kind of how they have you work on those sorts of images, so that they get multiple uses out of them. and they can take it and basically like manipulate your image to work on phones and to work with whatever marketing materials they want to use it for. So those illustrations are like putting together a giant jigsaw puzzle. Like, it's really cool when it all comes together, but by the end of those, I always feel like shocked that I was able to make it work. Like, all right, I had to download a script for Photoshop that applied adjustment layers and like overlay and soft light layers. I had to find a script for Photoshop that would apply them to every layer that is underneath them. That way I didn't have to like flatten and then cut everything out. So that was pretty complicated, but thank God I found that thing. I think I paid like, I don't know, $5 for it or something. Did Kim start an Elden Ring lore channel? No. she didn't. Not yet, anyway. You need that script? Yeah, I'll share it. I don't have it on me. I don't know the exact URL right now, but it's very helpful. I'm gonna use it pretty much forever now. That's like all I've ever wanted, is to just have something that made it so I didn't have to flatten my canvas every single time. Ahmed says, I've been under mentorship of Ron Lemon for 1 year, and it has beat my 10 years prior, as it wasn't drawing, it was doodling. I learned to have a structured practice with intention. Yeah, it's always important to kind of have a real purpose behind what you're doing. When you're just kind of doing things randomly, you know, it's a little bit messy going forward. It's hard to tell, like, if you're making progress. Like, one of the best things I ever did was have intentional studies. So what I would do is I'd basically I'd go into a study with the idea that I was going to apply it to something later. So all of my studies would really be something that was going to lead into me being able to create a better illustration of what I was, you know, going to do after I did that study. So like, if I'm painting a giant griffin or something, I'm doing studies of birds. I'm doing studies of like very specific like anatomical things that apply to what I'm then going to paint later in the day, because I want to make sure that I'm applying my knowledge. You don't want to just be like, here's a very broad general study, and then the thing that I'm actually working on is entirely different. You want to make sure that like the thing that you learn, you then use it. Like I almost think about that the same way as like learning a foreign language. Like, it's really hard to learn a foreign language unless you have somebody that you can talk to using that language. So like, you know, if you never use those studies, if you're studying this random thing and then you're coming back into your illustration and painting something completely different and not using any of the things you just learned, then it's not a waste of time, but it's definitely not an efficient use of your time. Whereas like, if you just use that study later and the thing that you were working on, you'd at least have that application and you'd be able to like, you know, actually use that knowledge and kind of log it away in your head. Like, once you apply something or teach somebody else something that you learned, you hold on to that knowledge way more. I backed the Polycade Centi. I think that's how you say it. And it just came in the mail the other day. It's pretty awesome. Although I have to say that I'm very ignorant when it comes to ROMs. If anybody in the chat can help me out with that, or direct me to something that can help me out with that, that'd be awesome. All I want is to be able to play Time Crisis 2 on it with my kids, and pretty much like all of the ROMs I've downloaded from MAME just don't work. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Is it all the ROMs? Am I doing something? Like, they're all missing files when I go to load them. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. I've just been like focusing on using their integration of like GOG and Steam. What playlist is this? You can look them up. It's a synthwave playlist. Dr. Bonkers Inc., like Incorporated Inc., is on YouTube. What artists inspired your style? Meaning that you studied by imitating or doing studies of their work to develop your voice. It's all over the map. I have so many influences. It'd be really hard for me to give you one solid answer for that, because like for the longest time it was like my peers, you know, like people like Wes Burt or Nox is Mad, Marko Đurđević, Jana Schermer, who else? I mean, there's so many people that I looked at when I was like coming up that were just in my world. And then when I got a little more into like studying old masters, it was Ilya Repin. And then that was like my main one. And then after that, I kind of moved over into like everything. I felt like I pigeonholed myself a little too much. So I just broadened my spectrum, and I was like, okay, let's just study everybody. So I started like looking at a lot of comics. I started looking at a lot of like animators, tons of different painters from all around the world. Like I just took in like every possible artistic kind of like influence, and then multicultural kind of influences in terms of like design and architecture, and just the way like people dress, and just different, like the whole spectrum of what's possible in the world. And then like through there, I just started exploring, and I'd go back in time, like look at all the pulp artists in the 60s, and there's so many like amazing people out there that I kind of take from everything, I guess. Not that I'm even meaning to, it's just happening. You know, it's just that osmosis from just looking at a lot of different things. But yeah, that's it. I can't give you like a direct person, because like even when I was a kid, it was like Rob Liefeld, and then it was Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, all those artists, and then you know, multiple other Marvel artists and people that I looked up to back then, Frazetta and all that. And it goes on and on and on. Maddie, yeah, no, I get it, using ChatGPT. I mean, ChatGPT in some cases is a lot like, you know, essentially Google. It's just somebody else Googling it for you. The problem with ChatGPT is when it's wrong, you just go like, that's super smart. But yeah, I've used ChatGPT as like a thesaurus writing, just because like I don't want to just literally use the thesaurus. I mean, one of like the, like I honestly feel like my the only use case for like AI that I like is like memes. It's just being able to make really stupid shit. Do you have anything you'd like to say publicly on behalf of Short Kings? Being short is a mindset that you put on yourself. I'm big, baby. It's funny, I never, like, I joke around about being short, but I don't actually care at all. I just tell people, you know, like if anybody ever said anything about me being short, and I'd be like, yeah, but I'm gonna outlive you, you tall motherfucker. Look how tall you are. You're gonna die young. That heart's not circulating the blood everywhere. Too big. You gotta weigh the pros and cons. Is it worth being super tall if you don't live as long just because you can reach that can of soup on the top shelf? You're gonna cut off 10 years of your life? I'm just joking. Okay. Okay, that feels like it's loose enough for me to then go in and paint on top of it. Alright. Alright, I am muting my screen. And I'll open it back up in Krita, and we will continue rendering. Alright. Here I am. I'm back. I always feel like it'd be easier to restart images like this, but because this isn't really for anything, I have no purpose. I don't need to do that. And if I didn't make all these dumb rendering mistakes, I would have been finished with this pretty quick. Krita's doxing me. Yeah, Krita's stupid home screen that has everything that you're working on it. I'm like, can you stop, Krita? Because I'm just forever doing NDA work. and see if we get a real-time update. Because I'm still fired up. No, I think my last few messages were maybe too incendiary. What do I call this lovely creature? I don't know. He doesn't have a name. You can name him. I can guarantee you, Maddie, that I have no effect on these people. Not like that. I am interested in seeing what the takeaway from my message is, though. Bobby Blub. Something tells you they're going to run away with it. I mean, I don't think any of that stuff, like when it comes to human creativity and that sort of thing, it's not something that you can perfect. It's not, and it's not something you want to perfect. Like half the time when I'm working on stuff, like I have to tell myself that like the reason why people love the sketch of most people's stuff and then think that the final isn't as cool is because people start to get too analytical of their things and they take the humanity out. You want the energy, you want the human error, you want the little things that don't work or make sense. Like that, it's like, yes, it might not be perfect in its anatomy, it might not be perfect in the handwriting when you write something. It's like, but that's what makes it human, and you want human. Like when Dan and I write Steve Lichman, like one of the things we try and always check ourselves on is like going back over something too many times, because if you go back over your same jokes and things, it's like, no, you need that spontaneity. You need the feeling like somebody said it and it's kind of right, but it's a little off or something. Like just the way real people talk. Real people aren't perfect. They don't have, you know, super precise, exact amazing dialogue all the time. That's like a thing that you can do. You know, there's like, if you watch like Moneyball or something like that, you'd be like, wow, that's pretty good. How like amazing that back and forth is. Some of the characters, you know, like are going to be really clever and whatever. It's like, but that's, you know, that person's only really clever and interesting because they're contrasted against somebody who's doing the opposite of that, so that it stands out. So it's like these balancing acts that need to happen too. It's all very like human and wrong and varied and all this stuff, and like you take the person out of it, you take that touch from it, then it feels stale and weird. It feels like committee. It's like when people were hating on like Marvel movies for being kind of just middle of the road, blah, like formulaic. It's like when something becomes predictable because it's just almost might as well be written by AI, people don't like it because it's too formulaic and it's too based on something being exactly one thing. You want things to be a little bad. Not even bad, just human. Ryan saying, it's funny you say that. I'm realizing that every time my editor gets excited about a particular page, it's the one I did a little quicker, less noodling and more impulse. Yeah, I mean, that a lot of times that's the case. Like, you really have to control yourself with like a lot of things if you're a perfectionist, you know. You have to kind of like stop yourself from overdoing things. It's like a hard lesson I've had to learn, because I was for the longest time like a perfectionist, just zooming in and doing all the details, and I still do a lot of detail, but I try and make sure that it's implied. It's not perfect. Like, a lot of the detail is left up to the imagination. Like, even now I'm trying to lose a lot of edges right now. Like, I'm trying to lose things. Like, that's what this whole pass is. Like, I'm just like not happy with the fact that it's so sharp, so figured out. It's one of the things that I learned when I got outside of my own like little art bubble, because I felt like my peers could appreciate the work that I was doing in like the detail, because they understand what that takes, And it was like this whole thing of like, wow, that's crazy that you did that. And I would think like, oh, that means I'm doing good. But then to like most people who just take in art and are looking at things, like they would see it and not like it as much. And then the weirder stuff, like the more stylized and just like different things I was doing, like Starvale and whatever, where like stuff was like a little wrong or just looser, all that, like that would get way more attention from people who weren't necessarily in the art community. And I remember thinking like, oh, okay, like, you know, this is like the male gaze versus the female gaze. It's just the artist gaze versus the average person. Ainsley says, I've been working in the industry or freelance for over a decade. Is it worth seeking in-house jobs? Considering I live on the other side of the planet, I feel like the industry is very turbulent. I honestly feel the same way right now. I think most of what we're seeing is because of the pandemic and the way people hired and how they acquired companies and all this other stuff. So I think we're in a very specific time period where like everybody's losing jobs. But if you already have an established freelance career, then I would honestly say stick with that, because you're varied and you can hop around and you're not locked into any one place. Like, it might not be safe in the sense that it has all the benefits of like being around a bunch of people, having like the company cover a lot of things and all that, but you might be safer because you don't want to get comfortable in a job and then have the rug get pulled out from under you, which I've seen happen to so many people. Because a freelance career is hard to build. It takes a long time, and once you get that ball rolling, then it's something you want to keep going. Because that can be like a nice shield for you, protect you. Well, who do I like better, Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees? It's Freddy Krueger for sure. I feel like if you're into Jason, you're more in the I watch WWE Monday Night Raw camp. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it has a very specific like Korn vibe, like the band Korn. Has a cut my life into pieces, this is my last resort vibe. Where I think Freddy is just cooler because it's, you know, the fantasy aspect of it feels more creative. What are your thoughts on pursuing a comics career now? Is it possible? Can you make a good living with it? How long would it take for a guy with no career to get to Kim Jong-ji's level? Kim Jong-gi? I mean, you'd have to be dedicated to just mastery if you want to do that, but I don't know how long that would take you. It'd take a while. You can make a living doing whatever you want if your stuff is good enough. It's up to you. Like, you gotta have something to say. You have to love what you do it every day, constantly, even when it's not making any money. You just have to enjoy this stuff. Like, I wasn't making money, not like real money for, you know, the first whatever it was, like the first 10 years of my career. I wasn't doing like so hot. I was doing all right, but things didn't really pick up steam for a while. And you have to be cool with that because it's just, you're still doing what you love to do. But I don't know you and I can't give you an exact time. Give yourself crazy deadlines. Make yourself live up to your own unrealistic expectations. Ryan said, would you be opposed to someone showing some of your sample pages for Veil on their channel? I kind of wanted to discuss the art on a stream, but wanted to make sure it was okay. Yeah, go for it. There you go, Maddie. That's a good idea. Have you guys considered second printing with IDW or Image, etc. post Patreon campaign? You mean Kickstarter? No, not at all. It's just not worth it. I think, like, you know, when are you more likely to buy something? When it's limited and you could potentially miss out on it and it's supporting an individual creator, or when you could always buy it, it's always there, and it's from a giant company that has like a million other properties that they're not married to. You want to take as much indecision away as possible when you're selling something. That's that Henry Ford quote, you can have any color as long as it's black. You just want to eliminate that. It's like, so have it be a campaign that only lasts a certain amount of time. It creates this thing of like, oh, okay, yeah, like I want that before it's gone. Like, and then also limiting what's on a store. It's like, don't have a million things, only have one thing. But yeah, I wouldn't go through I wouldn't go through IDW or Image. I mean, that's how I buy things. It's like I buy like a James Jean print because I know that, like, okay, if this is something I like, if I like this one, it'll only be available for 24 hours. And then it's just done. It's like, okay, I want that because I like that print and I'm looking at it right now. And if it was always there, I might just go, well, maybe in the future. And then I forget about it because I have a bunch of other stuff going on in my life and I never buy it. Not to say, like, you know, that's everything, but having it be 24 hours, it just, you know, takes that part of my mind off it. I go, okay, yeah, I'm just going to get it now. That's the only time I will be able to get it. So, yeah, I want it. It's cool. I really like that print. I like this artist. I gotta tell you all something. I really wish I couldn't smell my dog's vagina right now, but unfortunate truth is I can. It's either that or her anal glands. I don't know what it is, but it's making me feel sick. Just coffee and anal glands. You know me. That's how I live. You didn't want to know that? Well, it's an inconvenient truth. Sorry, everybody. Lysol? What, spray it in my dog's asshole? ice cream was bomb. No, I'm excited. You're starting to do lives, creating 3D characters. Do I have any tips? Just be yourself and be open. Be honest. You don't need to say everything about your life, but if you have funny things to say, or I don't know who you are as a person, but do that. Last stream, somebody was like, why are you so zoomed in? You can't see what you're doing. I want you to know that the image is small on my screen. I don't just have like the largest screen in the world where this is very easy for me to see. I zoom way out so that I can see the image as a whole, and I don't overdo any details. Just because I can zoom in doesn't mean I should. I think I will stop working on this after this stream, and this will be the last I do of this particular illustration because it's too far gone. I didn't do exactly what I wanted, but it's too late. So it's easier to just kind of call it, and then on the next one, not make the same mistake with that brush. Right now this image is only okay. Do you have the I'll fix it in the render habit? No. That's like the opposite of what I try to do. I liked this drawing. It was just as I rendered it, my brush stopped working the way I wanted, and I thought something was off. I couldn't figure it out. And then when I went back to paint the next day after I had done all the rendering in the wrong brush, it worked on the previous brush that I would have used, and I was like, okay, so there was something like off about my actual pen, my tablet. I don't know if something was stuck or something inside, or just this whatever measures like the pressure sensitivity or something was off. I don't know. But the next day it worked, and then I was just kind of stuck with all the work that I had done. I was like, ah, shit. Really didn't want it to look like that. Because these usually take me like no time at all to do. But now, because I've kind of messed myself up, I have to go back through and fix it, which is what I'm trying to do here. Was it the magnetic thing with the pen? No. I think it was because my pressure kept getting kind of like stuck, and I did the thing that they say to do, like to shake it out, but I think I just ended up like messing it up for a little bit. Sometimes that works really well for me, sometimes it doesn't. Now I'm really zoomed out. Sorry, everybody. Okay. What can I do? What can I do? What would be cool? That would not work. What's going on? Okay. I feel like I just need something to bring it closer to the character. Let's Let's bring it back into Photoshop. It's probably something I can do. Alright, muting my screen. Okay. So much I could do. What could I do that's cool? Let's see how it looks with all the texture and things on it. Yeah, it looked crazy before. Look at that, it was like super blown out. Okay. Okay, I think that's about as much saving of this character that I want to do. I'll post this one up and yeah, let me know what you think. I'll take away the circle, I think. I'm just not crazy about it, but I did about as much extra work as I wanted to do. I really should have just started it over again from the inking phase because the inks were pretty solid and I just didn't have that brush, so it just ends up, yeah, a lot of doctoring trying to make it better. But yeah, thank you all so much for hanging out. Sorry I was silent for the last chunk of that. I was just trying to figure it out. But yeah, I'll talk to you all soon. I'll be back on here next week, same time, 8 p.m. Thursday, Mountain Standard Time. Love to you all. Appreciate you. And I'll see ya.